President Mwai Kibaki is dead. I send my condolences and those of Nairobi Review family to the family of Mwai Kibaki and to the people of Kenya. Because of the timing of this death, just about 100 days before our next election, I find it fitting that we should look at Mwai Kibaki as we celebrate his times and life and see what lessons we can draw and learn from the life and times of this wonderful Kenyan. So as we pray to God to grant him peace in his final resting, we must perhaps challenge ourselves and say, are there things we can learn from Mwai Kibaki? As is usual with me, I choose not to speak about the bad things because we are all human beings. Kibaki was a human being, mortal. He was a president like any other president, could have made mistakes, and there were good things too. As an African, I choose just to eulogize somebody by sticking to the meaning of the word eulogy, which is good, kind words about somebody. There will be time for us to talk about other things. In the words of Shakespeare, through Mark Antony in Julius Caesar, the evil that men do lives after them. The good is always interred with their bones. Mark Antony says, let it be so with Caesar. I say, let it be so with Mwai Kibaki. So we look at the good things as we remember Mwai Kibaki and learn a thing or two, especially for those Kenyans who are going into the August 2022 elections. First, you cannot mention Mwai Kibaki without mentioning resilience. That Mwai Kibaki remained resilient because there was something burning in him, something driving him to seek the leadership of this country. And I'm sure when Kibaki got the leadership, he never disappointed. Joe Biden says, there must be something driving you to do something. He says many people asked him why, even after the calamities that befell him, his wife, his son, he still was going for the presidency. He says you must have something driving you. According to Biden, you might want to conclude that there are many people who always give up. You start a business, something goes wrong, you look back and go and look for employment, salaried employment. Kibaki stood in the year 1992, first multi-party election. He became number 3. He stood in 1997, Mwai Kibaki became number 2. He could have given up then. He did not give up, and in December of the year 2002, Mwai Kibaki became the president of Kenya. So those, for example, who are saying that Raila should give up because he has tried many times, Kibaki is a constant reminder that that is not the case. Only recently, I think towards the end of last year, Zambia elected somebody to the office of president who had been running for 5 times. Not to mention Joe Biden, not to mention Abraham Lincoln, who stood for many positions and lost, totaling about 7 of them before he became president. So we learned this from Mwai Kibaki, that when you have something burning in you, when you love your country, you love your constituency, your county, and you feel there's something you want to deliver, never give up. We also learned something from Kibaki in terms of resilience. That so long as that thing is in you, you'll go for what you are looking for. So those who are saying William Ruto is too ambitious, they are wrong. There must be something burning in Ruto to want to lead this country at some point. But again, it should not be terminal. You should not want the president so bad that you are willing to sacrifice each and everything and everybody to get that presidency. Because from Raila Odinga, from the Zambian president, from Biden, from Abraham Lincoln, and from Mwai Kibaki, there is always a next time. We also learn from Mwai Kibaki that age may not be everything. There are presidents who have done wonders for their country when they were old. There were presidents who have messed their countries when they were old. There have been kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers who have done wonders, yet they were relatively very young. And equally, there were young people who messed their countries. Age is not a factor. I remember once when Mwai Kibaki was asked, at 70 years, and you still want to run for office of president, he just laughed it off. I remember what he said. Kibaki said that that is the beauty of democracy, that people are allowed to say what they want. It's as simple as that. That was Kibaki for you. So for those who believe and think that somebody like Raila Odinga may be too old, I think they are wrong. Because age is but a number. And Joe Biden, president of the most powerful country in the world, holding the most powerful office on planet Earth, is president, and we all know his age. Something interesting about Kenyan presidents and age. Jomo Kenyatta was an old man. He handed over power to Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, who was as youthful as William Ruto today. Moi then handed over to an old president, Mwai Kibaki, 70s. Mwai Kibaki in turn handed over to a youthful president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. There are those who are saying, if you look at pattern, engineers and scientists will tell you there's something about patterns. It may not be quite scientific, but there's something about patterns in science and in engineering that are found in the real world in which we live, where social man exists. Could we therefore be saying youthful Uhuru Kenyatta may indeed hand over power to elderly Raila Amolo Odinga? I was having coffee somewhere and people were saying, if you give this thing to William Ruto, he's too young and he could easily change the constitution. And he goes for 20, 24 years. I really laughed it off because we are beyond that. But as I laughed it off, somebody told me, there is talk in this country about changing the presidential term limit, the presidential term from 5 to 7 years. So somebody says, how about Ruto has done about 10 years and you are changing the constitution of the country? This is just hypothetical, by the way. And you say it's going to be 7 years, maximum 2 terms. And somebody is so popular that time that they say he's legible for avoidance of doubt. Just like Moi was allowed to run when we introduced the new term limit, and it was stated clearly in the constitution for the avoidance of doubt. Supposing that for the avoidance of doubt, William Ruto, who then might be extremely popular, is allowed to do another 7 and 7. So he will get 24. Those are just people saying. But they have nothing to do with, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying today. That's just out of the cuff. So we are learning a lot from Mwai Kibaki. Something else you learn from Mwai Kibaki, sacrifice. That there are individuals in this world who make sacrifices which a majority of other human beings cannot make. At a very young age, with a bright career, Mwai Kibaki chose to leave his teaching post that was just taking off at Makerere University. Makerere then was not just another university. With a degree from London School of Economics, I think, the sun was the limit for Mwai Kibaki. He chose to sacrifice that and come and serve his country as executive officer brought by Jaramogi Oginga Odinga all the way from Makerere. Mwai Kibaki along the way has made sacrifices. Even when Moi tossed him from the VP position, he never talked badly. He continued serving the people of Kenya as a minister. That is a serious sacrifice. When Mwai Kibaki faced the toughest test of his life, when other presidents would have allowed and let the country go to the dogs, Mwai Kibaki made the ultimate sacrifice. He shook hands with his rival Raila Amolo Odinga. Not many presidents can do that. And for those seeking power today, in August, you must look at that kind of sacrifice and ask yourself, should we condemn William Ruto when he makes people to sacrifice their gubernatorial ambitions and maybe run for Senate? Khalware, Margaret Wanjiru. The answer is no. We are learning from Mwai Kibaki. Should we understand Raila and Uhuru when they asked Tim Wanyonyi, Ngatia, Agnes Kagure to sacrifice and support Igathe? The answer is we should not blame them. We learn from Kibaki that in the service of man, in the service of country, there will be sacrifices to be made. And we look at presidential candidates today. I made a video and I said, this country will be great if Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto had sat down and one of them made sacrifices to support, for example, Ruto sacrificing to support Raila Odinga. All the energies we are directing into this election will be well spent in areas that will develop this country and see this country move forward. Sacrifices. Those, therefore, who do not understand Raila Odinga, when he introduces a bit of history, must understand that in choosing a leader, you must look at the people in terms of sacrifice they are able to make for country. Kibaki, as early as 1974, was listed among the 100 people in the world, 100 people in the world as early as 1974, who are most likely going to be leaders of their countries in 1974. Kibaki would have gone to the first lane. Kibaki would have chosen good jobs in the public sector, in the private sector. He would have taken a job with the World Bank, IMF, and other big employers and lived in the big cities of the world. But he sacrificed for country. It is in this context that some people argue and urge Kenyans to evaluate Raila Odinga in the same context. Look at the kind of sacrifices Raila Odinga has made and ask yourself, was it not possible, like Joe Biden was saying, for somebody to give up? To say, this country is not mine. I'm just one Kenyan, Raila Amolo Odinga. I've paid so much for this country. Was it not possible after detention for Raila Odinga, for example, to say, I have done enough. Let me do into private business. Let me be an ordinary politician. These are the kind of sacrifices we are talking about as we learn from Mwai Kibaki that real leaders make sacrifices for country. We ask God to rest President Kibaki's soul in eternal peace, as we ask Kenyans to draw lessons, to learn from the celebrated life of Emilio Mwai Kibaki.